It's taken almost 3 years and more than $1 million, but the Newcastle Community Health Centre was taking shape today from its new Hunter Street base.
The whole idea is to bring community health services back into Newcastle and have them accessible to the community, and it'll be great for the clients and the staff.
The $1.5 million renovation will also allow a wider range of services to operate from the new facility, with the main focus again on community nursing. In coming weeks, a new spinal centre will move in, with empty rooms possibly catering for relocated services from the Royal Newcastle Hospital. The strategy, all part of Hunter Health's move to make sure healthcare still has a presence in the inner city.
This is definitely a precursor to establishing services back in the Newcastle city centre, and it's a good opportunity for us to work out what services are required over the next couple of years, working towards a polyclinic for the future.
The facility caters for communities over a wide area, including Adamstown, Mayfield and Fern Bay. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
Gordana Katevsky went missing from Charlestown on November 24, 1994. Police believed a man driving a Toyota Hilux like this one abducted her. Now they think he had an accomplice sitting in the back.
Arising from the hypnosis of the witnesses, we have arrived at a face image of a male person who is blonde. The hair may have been dyed, in his mid to late 20s.
6 witnesses were hypnotised, and this face image came from one recollection. The release coincides with the start of National Missing Persons Week. Strikeforce Fenwick is running the investigation. It was formed more than 2 years ago to handle up to a dozen missing person cases from the Hunter. While no final date has been given for the Strikeforce to finish, it is winding down. Since it started, investigations into the disappearances of 2 girls have been called off on the basis of new information. Clear answers in the other cases are still to be found. Gordana Katevsky's is the last missing person that Fenwick is dealing with, and the investigation is in its final stages.
We are satisfied that Gordana Katevsky is deceased. This matter has been reported officially to the New South Wales State Coroner.
Police are calling for information from anyone who recognises these images. David McElwain, NBN News.
To many farmers, water is their lifeblood. Yet in New South Wales, legislation enacted in 1912 currently governs its management. But that's all about to change. A new water bill is now before Parliament.
I think it actually for the first time puts the environment up as an equal partner with consumptive use and other uses of water. So basically the concentration is on how we're going to share water between its competing uses.
The Director-General of the Department of Land and Water Conservation, Dr Bob Smith, was in the Hunter today to explain firsthand the changes to water users. The department is also seeking input from the farming and wider community.
To give people the opportunity to comment on the specific criteria which are in the new bill, and secondly to improve people's understanding of what the issues are associated with water management.
The proposed Water Management Act will provide a system of clear water rights, distinguishing landholders' harvest, domestic and stock rights with a longer tenure.
It actually gives them an increased length of licence, more security on their licence and more certain conditions associated with water supply. So overall there's a number of benefits.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Of the 7 cars stolen last night, this is what happened to 4 of them. But from the spate of car thefts in the Lower Hunter last week, police had better results.
Over a 5-day period, 35 cars have been stolen and 31 of those vehicles have been recovered.
10 adults and juveniles from the Lower Hunter arrested over the past 4 days will now face charges in relation to 20 car thefts. Meanwhile, 2 juveniles were arrested last night after a car stolen from Maitland's Heritage Holden crashed into a pole. Police also allege that they broke into the dealership the previous night and stole keys to a number of cars. Also last night, a car collided with one police car twice before hitting another during a chase through East Maitland and Tanambit. A 35-year-old man is now facing a number of driving and resisting arrest charges. NSX Chairman Stephen Pritchard has the job of selling Australia's stock exchange to businesses looking to raise money. Today he targeted the Hunters Technology Awareness Group.
We're talking about ways you can raise capital to expand your business, listing on the Newcastle Stock Exchange and various other capital raising opportunities.
The Newcastle Stock Exchange opened on March 21, and while listings have been promised to the extent of 40 in the year following the day the first company is up on the NSX board, the floodgates are yet to open.
It's getting a number of inquiries. Before a company can actually list, it has to go through various due diligence procedures, it has to prepare a prospectus, and all that takes a number of months. So an exchange just can't open and have listings on the board the first day. It's just not going to happen.
With government grants of $600,000 and more than $1 million spent so far in setting up the NSX, the chairman says there's still plenty of money in reserve.
Exchange is not in danger of running out of funds.
Brett Cowbern is a familiar face in Novocastrian soccer circles, albeit an older one. 21 years ago, he played his first season with the then national team KB United. Since then, he's focused on youth development, coaching the Breakers junior sides. This season, he's stepping up as Breakers youth coach.
I think it's going to be a very good squad. Ultimately, our goal is to pass players on to Lee in the first team squad. So primarily our aim isn't to win competitions. But obviously, if we've got good enough players, that's what we'll do.
He'll be helped by assistant coach Alex Tagarelius.
I've worked with Brett Cowbern with the Super Youth League teams over the last couple of seasons, so I'm looking forward to a really good time.
Meanwhile, the Breakers have snared the signatures of Sydney Olympics Peter Sakinis and Wollongong's Anthony Surgeon. Both will bolster the midfield.
They're both great characters for our club. They'll certainly help with the Catlins and the Harpers in the leadership stakes.
Veteran striker Andy Harper still hasn't decided if he'll stay in Newcastle this season. Lee Sterry, though, is confident he'll return.
Missing the 2 penalties towards the end of last year and us not getting in the 6, I think, he knows we've got some unfinished business.
The main changes are that the new development control plan will measure heights from ground level, including roof plant structures such as air conditioning units, and will incorporate view corridors into the established height limits.
In some instances, the actual height profile has been lowered. In other instances, it's been allowed to increase slightly.
The aim of the DCP 57 is to protect the heritage value of the East End without stifling investment and development. Concerns over car parking were not included in the new plan, and those considerations will be deferred until the Council's study on that issue is completed. While the plan has been adopted by Council, it will be reviewed in 12 months. Though there is likely to be some fine-tuning then, interested parties will be able to turn to the new plan with confidence.
If a developer comes up to the counter today and asks about their proposal, or if residents want to know what the guidelines are, that's the document.
We felt that we more than compromised, Jim. In fact, we've probably done all the compromising, but we did start at $1.50 and come to $1.20, $1.10, and now today $1. And if that doesn't resolve it, well, I don't know what will.
A large proportion of Australia's new military hardware is now constructed in the Hunter, from British Aerospace's new Hawk fighter trainers to ADI's fleet of mine hunters and repairs on the Navy's fastest Supercat. Today, Department of Defence heavyweights called local industry bosses together to update them on how best to apply for a slice of the $5 billion spent annually.
We're telling them how we're going about some of our newer organisations and processes to make it easier to do business with us, what the particular opportunities are in various areas of defence, and also what our prime contractors have available in the local area.
Well, it's increasing and it has the potential to increase even more, but it's up to us in the Hunter to get involved.
A general review of Australia's armed forces is also underway, and people have the chance to comment next Thursday night at the Radisson Hotel in Newcastle at 6 o'clock.
Going round Australia to seek everybody's views on what our Defence Force will look like in future, what tasks it will be able to perform, what capabilities it will need to perform them.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
In sight of reaching the ultimate prize, Newcastle isn't letting any chance slip by. But the Knights refuse to even entertain thoughts of a grand final berth.
No, because I don't want to talk about it. We had a game to play. That's what's important.
Buoyed by a great weekend that started with a win against Melbourne, including no major injury worries, and finished with the Knights earning this weekend off, even the players know there's still plenty to be done.
Why should you get carried away? We're a long way from achieving what we're after.
Solving a few defensive problems was one goal at the weekend, and there were few leaks against the Storm. The Knights will play the winner of the Roosters-Raiders match in 2 weeks under lights in Sydney.
I've no preference, mate. I'm happy to play either side and beat either side.
The Melbourne match also closed the playing chapter in the career of both Butts and Matthew Johns at home. They left Marathon Stadium for the last time as winners. All that's left is to finish the season as premiers. As for the future playing days of the unsigned Paul Rahihi and Lenny Beckett, it's believed the Knights may soon withdraw an offer to Beckett if he doesn't make a decision soon. And the club is searching to find the Kiwi forward work to ensure he can stay with the club for next season. Jim Callanan, NBN News. Dramatic is the best way to describe the way St Francis Xavier reached the final of the prestigious schoolboy competition. Up 24-6 against Dickson College, the Canberra school ran in 3 converted tries in 10 minutes to level. After a nail-biting few minutes, the Newcastle-based high school held on 24-all and advanced to the final after scoring more tries in the match. They'll play either St Gregory's Campbelltown or Palm Beach Currumbin in the decider in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, in Newcastle Rugby League, Gavin Cook has had his judiciary hearing postponed until Thursday night after he was sent off yesterday for this tackle against Waratah. It's the second time the West Centre has been ordered from the field this season, but was only one of a number of controversial decisions in the drawn game. Lake Macquarie sailors Chris Nicholson and Daniel Phillips have won the European 40-nighter Grand Prix series despite finishing 8th overall in the final regatta in Finland. The pair will represent Australia at the Olympics. And Hamilton have to beat Cessnock in the preliminary final for the chance to defend its NBN Soccer League title. Edgeworth has already won through to the grand final after beating the Hornets in yesterday's major semi-final.
The protest and barbecue outside the Premier's office was designed to turn up the heat on Bob Carr, the fishermen calling for him to step in and stop any forced closure of commercial fishing grounds. They say it will not only cost jobs in their industry, but have flow-on effects for others.
The commercial catch in New South Wales is worth approximately $80 million a year. When you take out about $25 to $30 million from the areas that are proposed to be closed, it leaves a big hole.
The fishermen also warn that less fishing grounds means less fish on the market.
The Minister could use these 5 loads and 2 fishers because that's what he's going to need to feed the population in New South Wales.
That Minister, Eddie Obeid, released a statement today saying no decisions have been made and the government is committed to a sustainable commercial fishing industry. The protesters, meanwhile, delivered a 6,000 signature petition to the Premier's office. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
Although the story of Joseph and his 11 brothers is a biblical one, you don't have to be religious to enjoy it. Joseph was the apple of his father's eye and was given a coat of many colours. His ability to interpret dreams put him alongside Pharaoh as his chief advisor. The tale is centuries old, but the music slightly more modern.
I've got rock and roll, an Elvis Presley song there. You've got Calypso with Benjamin Calypso. You've got almost a cowboy number with One More Angel in Heaven. You've got those Canaan Days, a French number.
It's the product of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, complemented by sparkling costumes and backdrops.
It's a real spectacle for the eye, what with the beautiful sets, especially when we go into Pharaoh's Court, and the beautiful costumes, over 100 of them, and everyone made for the show.
Across town at the Roxy, there are some hungry performers on stage in Sing for Your Supper. The show is based on the music of Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart from 1925 to 1943.
The emergency department at the Mater Hospital looked more like a parking lot this morning. 7 ambulances forced to wait with their sick patients for more than an hour. A situation the ambulance union says is totally unacceptable.
Puts a lot of pressure on the hospital staff here, where they know that they've got people on ambulance beds that need to be taken off and put into beds and to be treated. And it also puts a lot of pressure on the ambulance officers who know that there are people in the area that need to be treated, but they can't be freed up from the hospital here to do the jobs that they're paid to do.
The union says lives are being put at risk because of delays in processing patients, tying up ambulances from attending other emergencies.
Over the last hour and a half, we haven't had vehicles that have been able to respond out of their stations in the inner city area.
It's also claimed other hospitals such as John Hunter, Gosford and Belmont are also using ambulance stretchers as pseudo-hospital beds. But Hunter Health says from time to time, emergency departments simply have busy periods, especially in winter.
This morning we had quite a large number of people who arrived at the emergency department at the Mater all at the same time, and it does take some time to make sure that we clinically assess those people appropriately.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
The competitors don't get any easy ride. They are competing at a very high level.
This is the block earmarked to save Shortland wetlands. One expected sale hasn't eventuated, so CEO Chris Morris wants Newcastle Council to provide $200,000 interest-free as a bridging loan.
It's very important because with that interest-free loan it'll save us $1,600 a month off our interest bill, and that's a significant amount for the Wetland Centre.
Council has resolved to provide the funding, but only once a DA is lodged. The Wetlands CEO insists the assistance is needed now, and it won't be a case of throwing good money after bad.
Absolutely not. In the last 6 months we've increased our income by 40% and reduced our expenses by 28%. So we're actually resolving the imbalance that's occurred in the past.
Council officers say there are a number of wetlands to administer, and they are working on the possibility of extra funding coming from other levels of government.
As if there's not enough controversy over the sale of Customs House, this tiny parcel of land in the car park is causing more. It contains footings from the old convict lumberyard, nearly 200 years old. With the proposed sale of Customs House, Council is worried they could be lost or destroyed.
I'm very concerned that this portion of land may go into private ownership, and that will be a great detriment to the heritage value and the convict importance of all this.
Council has written to the federal government asking the boundary of the neighbouring convict lumberyard be moved to include the land.
I would prefer to see Customs House stay in public ownership, but if it's not to be, then this piece of land has to stay in public ownership.
Meanwhile, developers of the Beckton apartments on the waterfront at Honeysuckle have indicated they'll start the project before construction of the Crown Plaza Hotel next door. Both projects are yet to get final approval, but Beckton is hopeful it could be building by the end of September.
I think there's every prospect that this will be approved. I'm hoping that it will be, but I'm hoping that we get the refinement that the community wants.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Researching the breeding cycle of frogs may seem like a long bow to draw when trying to discover why some women give birth prematurely. But not so, say a team of Newcastle researchers. Both species are similar in that they adapt from an aquatic to a terrestrial environment.
It looks as though some of the changes that occur in the tadpole to allow that transformation to a dry land living may be quite similar to the changes that occur in a baby.
It's thought there may be a hormone that is common to both species, and it's this chemical that may be the key to premature birth.
One of the hormones that we in Newcastle have related to the process of birth, called CRH, has also been shown to be involved in the regulation of tadpoles turning into frogs.
And it's not only the human species that may benefit from this research. More may be learnt about amphibians.
We don't know a lot about how they reproduce and develop, so we may get some benefits for our native fauna as well as for humans from this work.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
As a veterinary nurse qualified in horse husbandry and management, Kim Smith saw a glaring absence of educational training in her field, equine first aid courses. She's now filled that gap, running her own program, the first of its kind in Australia, teaching horse lovers how to treat their animal when it's injured until professional help arrives. First and foremost for Kim is changing human behaviour after an accident.
They don't realise that the more they panic, the more the horse feeds off that energy, so it makes the situation much more catastrophic to start with.
Included in the course are basic health observations like heart and respiration rates, basic anatomy, bandaging and the contents of a first aid kit. Christina Wright lives an hour and a half away from the nearest vet and recently found herself helpless after a horse accident.
We've called an expert, but the time delay between that and when they turned up was just far too long. We could have done a lot. I now know how much I could have done.
Now the word has spread, and on top of running the program through Tokau Agricultural College, Kim travels around the country with her trusty Appaloosa Shine, helping everyone from professional riders to pony club children help their animal.
And it's just amazing the response, because people are coming away now with a knowledge and practical skills to save, in many instances, what is their best friend's life.
Catherine Turner, NBN News.
Harps was fantastic to play with last year, and I'd, look forward to more years.
All right, great. Thanks, mate.
3 out of 4 was the verdict for the Canberra Raiders, the two heavy tackles coming under scrutiny all week. If you look at the number of near misses in that game and the amount of players involved in reports, it adds to testimony that my thoughts that the club culture of Canberra and other clubs can lead you into some trouble. There is an intensely practiced technique where there's 2 men in a tackle, one defender tries to lift the attacking player's leg in the air, which enables both defenders to get him on the ground and slows the motion of the play the ball down. But if the 2 tackles assume the leg lifting role unknowingly at the same time in the heat of the game, it's very easy to go across the line of horizontal, where all intentions of a clean tackle can go wrong. In that same game, Laurie Daly gets my hit of the week in contrast. On to this weekend's semis, the Eels v Penrith, tomorrow night at the Sydney Football Stadium. The Penrith are without Pulatua, Mark Geyer, and Matt Adamson, who's been struggling with a calf injury all week, is still expected to play. They hit a young, aggressive side from Parramatta, led by Jimmy Dimmick, who's taken up the senior role since Jathan Smith's suspension. Rodwell, Gower and Girdler are in great form for the Panthers. It's hard to split these two teams, but I am going for Penrith. Now to Sunday's clash and the meeting between the two greats of the modern game, Fittler and Daly. Canberra's 3 suspended players, combined with the Roosters' record 10 out of 11 games on their home turf, which some experts say is an unfair advantage in the semi-finals. After the Roosters' soul-searching this week, I'm tipping them to win and play Newcastle next week. Well, it's all starting to heat up. I'll see you next week. That's the one.
Feeling the nerves that come with any grand final match, Terrigal Avoca players have tried to stay focused during their final training session this week. With 3 new forwards, the team has plenty of new combinations to work on, but they'll be sticking to basics come tomorrow's grand final.
Just follow on from our tactics that we've shown throughout the year, just to be hard at the ball and to stick to our team plan and not expecting to do anything different just because it's grand final day, just to stick to what we're doing.
As minor premiers, Terrigal Avoca is favourite for the clash and have had the wood on their rivals Cardiff in their last 2 outings, including the major semi-final just 2 weeks ago. But the Panthers know anything can happen on grand final day.
They're a very good side and they've got a history of being a very competitive side, and they've put in some good performances this year. And undoubtedly it's going to be a very close contest, and the old cliche, it's be the best team that plays on the day or win the game.
While Cardiff may lack experience, its strong marking forwards more than make up for it. But they have one Panther in their sights, Maury Goolagong.
He's such a strong man, and we've got a few tricks up our sleeve for him. So if we can keep him under about 5, we're in with a real show.
But the Coast has cleared its trophy cabinet, hoping to add the oldest sporting trophy in Australia, the Black Diamond Cup, to the collection.
Well, I believe it's the oldest sporting trophy in Australia, so it's pretty special in that respect, and we're certainly looking forward to bringing it back to the Central Coast.